children, the journey to adulthood seems to take forever. Reality is we spend a relatively short stint as kids. Pressures to look older, act older, and grow up faster are all around us. And with puberty happening earlier than ever, it seems like little kids are turning into sexual adults in the blink of an eye.
I'm at the Elmwood Spa today and I just got my manicure and pedicure done. And right now I'm getting my hair colored and I'm going to get an updo. Hope I'm going to look really pretty, and when I go into the gym for graduation, everyone's just going to go, wow.
Grade 8 graduation, and the graduates look more like beauty pageant contestants than pubescent students.
It didn't really hit me till I got here today and I saw the girls. And when I saw the girls, I just went, oh my God, they've grown up and this is it.
These 13 and 14-year-olds are almost at the end of the physical transformation, better known as puberty.
Unique individuals have encouraged us and supported our dreams for as long as we can remember. These teachers include...
They are now physically prepared to have sex. Every day they're getting closer to the big moment.
The discovery of sex.
I used to think that, girls were ick, kind of thing, but, they eventually turned and I started to like them.
Didn't really start thinking about them sexually until, of course, I hit puberty. Then I was desperate for any contact with girls, which was made all the more difficult by the fact that I went to an all-boys school.
I found an old Playboy, and next thing I knew, things were in motion.
For this group of young college students, the memories of awkward and embarrassing pubescent years are vivid.
My first kiss. I was playing Spin the Bottle. It's sad how that's my first kiss, and people always say you'll always remember, and I still do. It landed on the popular guy of the crowd. I was all excited, and that's what me and my friends talked about for weeks and weeks, that kiss.
Puberty was a great time because me and my friends would all gather together, and we had pornographic night, right? We'd get the porns out, guess what I have? I have part 7, and you'd trade and stuff, and I just remember watching a lot of porn through puberty.
You could say the teenage years are a rehearsal for a healthy adult sex life. It's a chance to get used to the steps, moves, and motions. Rock stars send the message to their young fans loud and clear. Express your sexual confidence. Problem is, these days the rehearsal session isn't that long.
I know when first experiencing things, I really didn't understand a lot. Like my first kiss, I was like, what's this?
It was the most overwhelming moment of my life, but also the most enjoyable too. And you enter a new realm. You totally enter a new realm, and you grow up really fast because you realize what it is that you're doing, and there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that.
I must say, the first time, I was very nervous, but it was great at the same time, just everything that you experience, it's new. It's something that you can't describe, but you just know that it's great and it's awesome and it's something that you want to keep doing.
While the journey from diapers to losing virginity appears to happen overnight, the road here actually begins years earlier. Throughout childhood, boys and girls grow at about the same rate. Each year, we pack on about 3 kilograms and sprout up about 6 centimeters. But around age 9, everything starts to change. Your voice croaks and eventually gets deeper. Your chest starts budding. You get hairy in private places. and nothing fits the way it used to. These symptoms may sound like science fiction, but they're not. They belong to the world of puberty, a bridge we all cross to enter the adult world. When puberty erupts, most children are living in the final phase of a hormonal limbo.
In the newborn period, for example, there's a little surge of hormones at the time of delivery, and those surge of hormones are short-lived. They maybe last for a few months. And from that point in life, if you look at the various hormones that are important in regulating puberty, they're almost undetectable until the period of pre-puberty just begins.
At an average age of 10 and a half for girls and roughly 1 year later for boys, their body chemistry begins to spin in circles. The upheaval begins with an orchestrated chain reaction of chemicals and hormones. And although it's a universal process, there is a notion that it's happening sooner than ever. Is there any truth to this thought? The fact is, puberty is not a static process. It really is happening earlier and earlier, at least in some parts of the population. Every decade since 1850, menarche has started 3 to 4 months sooner.
And if you look at, for example, the pattern of onset of the first period, a very marked linear decline in age from the age of the first puberty, from about 18 back about 100 years ago, which is the average.
Pediatrics found that American girls were getting their first periods well before the so-called average age of 12. There are a variety of possible causes for the falling age of puberty. The single biggest reason could be something fair.
Increased body weight, increased distribution of fat versus protein.
It could be that today's high-fat diets are... Child obesity could also be a reason because fatty tissue is a source of the sex hormone estrogen. North of the spectrum, a lack of proper nutrition combined with rigorous exercise can delay development in girls, female menstruating until much later than normal. And since girls experience their final growth spurt at the onset of menstruation, there is no scientific evidence that puberty is occurring earlier in boys. Scientists don't know exactly what pollutants from the environment enter the body. They can act like estrogen. Evidence is more conclusive in animals than humans. One theory even goes so far as to suggest that indoor lights could trigger early puberty.
Artificial lights are a factor, probably. Artificial lights affect the pineal gland, which is one of the triggers for puberty development. Animal breeders have known for years, raise the chickens with 24-hour daylight and they start laying eggs sooner and they develop sooner, and then you can put them on the market sooner and you can save money.
It seems that's exactly what we're doing, putting them on the market sooner. Advertisers are taking advantage of the fact that girls' bodies are preparing for sex earlier, and this may be encouraging them to act sexy at a younger age.
Teenage females are growing up really, for my taste, too fast. They are now wearing too much makeup. They're wearing very, very suggestive, seductive type clothing.
If young women have an innate sexual rhythm, marketers are quickening the tempo.
I think there is some pressure nowadays for particularly little girls to be sexier at a younger age. There's a little bit of marketing towards it. I mean, female clothing at a younger age has become, in a weird sort of way, little girlish sexy, sort of a Lolita-ish, short shorts and halter tops and so on that you see in a lot of major cities nowadays. And it always feels kind of strange to see girls as young as 10 dressed up like this.
Chocolate lip gloss, slinky bra tops. In North America, there are special cosmetics and lingerie lines aimed directly at 10 to 12-year-old girls. Sandra Friedman is a therapist who has spent decades specializing in girls' issues and eating disorders.
You look at all the consumerism that's aimed at younger girls, that we're beginning to sexualize them. And so certainly we're placing a lot of expectations on girls going through puberty that we never did before.
Now little girls have the clothes, And thanks to their role models, they've also got the moves.
They are assuming mannerisms and postures that are really teasing.
While pop culture is living up to the adage, sex sells, there could be another reason our little girls are gobbling the sexy stuff up. Perhaps their bodies are actually ready for it.
As I watch young teenage females, young teenage females, and literally absolutely flaunting their sexuality, they are just oozing sex and hormones.
But if the body's getting the equipment delivered early, does that mean today's young girls are emotionally prepared to use it?
And I think of, one grade 7 girl who said, oh, my head is like, it's like a balloon and it's getting, it just feels like it's getting bigger and bigger and it's going to burst and I want to scream. And am I crazy? And I said, no, these are hormones. And I didn't say to her, wait till you go through menopause, you'll do it all over again.
Boys also go through immense physical changes. It all starts with the development of this tender twosome. They may not be pretty to look at, but they definitely turn boys into men. In the first year of puberty, boys often experience a growth spurt, shooting up as much as 10 centimeters. The trigger for this growth explosion starts down under, with the testicles.
Well, the only thing I really noticed is they started hanging a little bit more, but besides that, I didn't really notice too much more, I wasn't really looking at that. I was noticing more of the hair and growing and, the Johnson getting a little bigger. And
During childhood, the scrotum is drawn close to the body, but once puberty hits, it begins to get looser and hang down, and the skin takes on a darker color and rougher texture. The testes and scrotum also nearly double in size, from an average 2 centimeters in length, ending up at roughly 4 centimeters.
They produce testosterone and makes us a man. That's why we look different than women. And they also produce sperm. So without the testicles, we'd have nobody because we need them to procreate.
While pubescent boys experience sudden growth spurts, they often notice that something else starts to sprout up spontaneously as well.
You'll be in like a classroom, and thank God for the desks, and then you have those horrible bus rides, where things happen, and then you have a stop to get off of 2 minutes later, what do? You kind of, I guess, suck it up or tuck it in, whatever.
The first occurrence I had was I was in a classroom full of girls dancing all the time. And when you're starting to see the breasts forming and the curves and all that, my first erection happened when we were just finishing one of our dances. We're sitting down in a corner and the girls are talking about their boobs and stuff. And so that was pretty embarrassing. I had to stay sitting down for a couple of minutes before I got up again. That's the first one I remember.
Developing testicles are also the gateway to that other pubescent discovery, the M word.
I'm the Cal Ripken of masturbation. I've got this streak for days, consecutive days. Which is, I don't know, since you were 15, 16, since you noticed you could, shoot the gun. So, clean the pipes, yeah, that's my phrase.
Take note, all that sperm production needs a cool environment, a little lower than body temperature. That's why the testicles are outside the body, and why spending hours a day in a hot tub is a bad idea for the boys. And while briefs do keep your testicles snug up against your warm body, it probably doesn't make a big difference in sperm production. There's no need to run out and buy boxers. But if it's cold, the scrotum comes to the rescue, calling the kids inside by tightening the sac. This brings the gonad snug up to the nice warm body. In some cases, the scrotum is too diligent, the testes get crushed, and the owner is more than a little uncomfortable.
How do you describe testicles? They're pretty gross.
I've got the greatest testicles. That's what they tell me anyway. I don't really have a lot of exposure to other testicles, so I really only have my testicles to rely on, but from what I've been told, they're pretty nice.
Frankly, I think the whole package is pretty unattractive, actually.
I find my testicles quite attractive. Other individuals' testicles I'm leery about. I don't really like to be around them.
So they may not be the most stylish objects, but they do have the important job of making hormones, like testosterone.
Testosterone is necessary for a number of things we take for granted. It's responsible partly for our sex drive and our libido. It's for our appearance, our oily skin, our deepened voice, our beard growth. It's also responsible for our bone health, and testosterone is very important to keep our bones healthy. It may be responsible for blood flow to our heart and cardiac health, and certainly is responsible for the strength of our muscles.
When a man is stimulated, blood rushes to the penis and the testicles. As his arousal grows, so do his testicles. In fact, they get up to 50% bigger. After an orgasm, the blood dissipates and the testes resume their normal size. But if for some reason the guy isn't allowed to finish, all that blood sticks around. The result is something that can happen at any age in a man's life: blue balls. The blue comes from the bluish tint that can be seen in veins and vessels filled to the rim. This unrelieved swelling can press on delicate tissue, making the whole area achy and uncomfortable.
Blue balls is not necessarily a condition of the testes, but a condition of the whole pelvic floor, where the pelvic floor is ready for sexual action and ejaculation and is deprived of that.
But relatively speaking, boys have it easier than girls. No periods, no PMS, no worry about bodily hair, no ability to get pregnant. For boys, puberty is often a positive step toward manhood. But there's also a downside to all that testosterone. It causes oil-producing glands found in the skin to become overactive. The result? A dating nightmare.
When I was like 15, I had real bad acne, real bad, all over my face.
That was a hard time, actually, because, you had this acne all over your face and you weren't sure what to do with it, eh? And, you had to bear with it, grin and bear it.
I had very bad acne, and my cousins would, call me, hey, there's a pizza face, an oily face, and, can I get some oil from my bread and pretend they wipe it and stuff?
A surge of testosterone may wreck their skin conditions, but on the bright side, it does get boys interested in the game of sex. And that game gets even more interesting when girls get in on the action.
Puberty is the time when everything you did before puberty seemed really lame.
One minute you're a kid, and the next moment you're an adult.
You could say stage 1 of puberty is the quiet before the storm, otherwise known as prepubescence.
You're going from a stage where the sex hormones are basically undetectable, and they slowly begin to rise. And that process begins before the physical aspects of puberty are in fact noticed.
With the internal production of estrogen in girls and testosterone in boys, the external signs of puberty begin to manifest. For girls, the first sign of observable puberty is breast development, usually on both sides, but sometimes predominantly on one side.
And then the first thing that would be observed, and maybe the parents may not even observe this, would be a little bit of tenderness around the nipple area, and then a little bit of what we call breast budding, which you can sometimes feel rather than see.
For the early bloomer, this budding can be a difficult experience.
I was completely mortified, and I'd wear undershirts, upon undershirts, just to hide the fact that I was getting a chest in grade 3-4 split class. So it was something that I didn't want back then, because I saw another girl get teased over her bra, and the boys would, pull her bra strap, or it wasn't fun.
It's also no fun being on the opposite end of the bra scale either.
Nobody used to tease me because mine are smaller than what everybody thinks. Thank God to Wonder Bras and those push-up bras. You can try to make yourself fuller. So no, nobody really teased me about anything like that, because I know other girls who have small breasts, and among girls we know how it feels to be teased. So no.
Next up, a few wisps of pubic hair begin to emerge.
I didn't even know that it was puberty. I just noticed that, oh wait, there's something more down there now. But I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know that that was me growing up.
More and more hair is just one of the many complications girls learn to deal with.
I just shaved actually yesterday, and the hair on my leg is already growing back.
I don't see the reason behind shaving your legs.
I shave my armpits usually because I wear a lot of tank tops, and I don't like underarm hair with the tank top.
I do everything to get rid of it, like all of it. And after like 5 years, I just got so sick of it. I'm just like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. So, like, I still get really like nasty looks every once in a while.
Finally, that breast budding eventually becomes a full bloom, sending girls straight to the lingerie department.
Before, like, I wore like a sports bra, and like I was jumping rope one day, and my friend came up to me and just like, you need to get a bra. I was like, oh, what?
She looked at me, she's like, you know, you should wear a bra more often, because if you don't, your breasts will start to droop and sag by the time you're 20.
I used to go into the mall with my mom, and I would be convinced. I had those ones with the little straps in the front, you know, and I'd try them on over my clothes, and I'm like, oh, I need one of these, and, you know, it was an A something, and I couldn't even fill it out, and anyways, yeah, so probably about grade 8, I think I, like, was totally developed, like, after the summer, and I just remember having everybody, you know, obviously the guys sit around me, and, oh, so how was your summer, and, you know, they're getting closer, and...
Throughout all this, a girl's vagina and uterus are growing much larger. Her pelvis expands. Her hips become more rounded. She's beginning to look more and more like a woman. Then she enters the cruel battleground of sexual competition.
When I noticed that my body was changing, I think I really expected all the boys to start liking me all of a sudden, like magically. And of course that didn't happen.
No, they didn't like me. I had skinnier, prettier friends.
Not really, because I was a fat girl, so they didn't notice me.
Sexual thoughts also begin to set up shop in the brain.
I just got like a really dirty mind, you know. I think I'd read into everything what I wanted to read into it. Like, I could come up with something disgusting on like the most innocent thing.
I think a lot of people talk the talk, but don't walk the walk at that age. And what age I mean is between 15, 16 years old. It's more or less when we're finally getting comfortable with dating. There's, you know, you do more than hold hands. You make out. You probably do a little bit of stuff over top or underneath the shirt.
Human beings are the only creatures that combine their transition into adulthood with an intense emotional soap opera.
The best thing was probably you started to see the world differently. And you started to see it from a more adult, in a more adult way. The worst thing was you didn't really understand it at the time, and so you obviously thought you were some kind of freak.
Most parents can cope with puberty as such, and they know that it's going to happen. They're okay with it, but what they dread the most is the mood swings, the fluctuations from monumental high when the kids are just zinging, they are off the wall, it's a and the next minute they're in the john, contemplating flushing themselves down the toilet.
The soap opera really belongs more to adolescence than it does to puberty. That's an important distinction. Although they generally overlap, puberty and adolescence are not quite the same process. Children are still changing physically during adolescence, but what they go through is more of a social and emotional transformation. Puberty is primarily a physiological transformation. A child's sexual organs mature and become fully functional. The child may now be able to reproduce, but they are not yet adults.
What else?
In Western culture, puberty is the gateway to adolescence.
National penis size average is 5 3/4. We're talking 5 3/4. That's it. A lot of guys like to think it's 8. It's really not.
Most teenagers don't like their body as it is right now. They've got greasy hair, terminal zits, flats, thunder thighs. Every male is firmly convinced he has the smallest penis in the whole school, that everybody is better hung than he is.
And girls have their own concerns, because nothing catapults them to womanhood more than the onset of their monthly period. The trip from the onset of puberty to menstruation can take as little as 2.5 years and as long as 5 years. For the first 12 to 18 months, a girl's cycles are anovulatory, which means there is no egg released. She's technically infertile, but still continues to bleed every month.
For me, it was, wow, this isn't gonna stop till I hit menopause. Like, this is horrible. And then gradually, like, I guess something clicked, like, inside of me, like, maternally, and I was suddenly like, wow, I can have something, like, grow inside of me, and, like, it just, like, it blew me away.
The week I got my first period, I was supposed to go camping. And I didn't know how to use a tampon. And they were all going swimming. It was at a beach, and they're all having fun. And I was so scared to try to use the tampon. It was my first period. I had no idea how to use the thing. I don't know why, but it's weird. Like, you have to stick this thing inside you, and God, which hole do you put it in?
I got it. She's like, it? I'm like, it, mommy. I'm like you now. She's like, you got your period? Congratulations, you're a woman now. I'm like, how long's it gonna last?
Seriously, the first couple of times I put it in the wrong hole. And it hurt. And I'm like, I don't think this is how it's supposed to be.
With the first period, girls enter into a private world of pads and fluids that boys know nothing about.
I have to mark down the date so I will be prepared for it next time, and so I won't get into accidents in school and stuff like that.
Towards the end of her cycle, a girl could suffer from cramps, irritability, sensitive breasts, and a variety of other symptoms, all of which are called PMS, or premenstrual syndrome.
It's just like this thing, it's like inside of you. Like, it's not fake. It's not like you can control it. There's like, you just have to cry or you just have to like yell, and like everything's so much bigger. And it's just like this chemical imbalance. And it's honestly, it's as if you're on some kind of drug, a really horrible, horrible drug.
And in a way, a girl suffering from PMS is on drugs. During menstruation, her body secretes 4 hormones in what is called the neuroendocrine cascade. If the cascade is irregular or imbalanced, then she learns why her periods have been called the curse.
I have this tendency to go through like all the symptoms of PMS in the space of about 2 hours. I can go from bitchy to moody to bawling my eyes out to screaming at people to just like collapsing.
I wish my breasts swelled. I don't get anything like that. I don't get moody. I don't have any effects other than cramps, which are really painful. Like, I wish guys get it, just so they know why some girls do get so moody and do get so bitchy, because they have no idea.
So many people, like, mostly guys, don't understand, like, what it's like to have PMS. It's not something that we choose to do consciously.
Older men may eventually learn more about PMS from women who become comfortable talking about it. But these guys don't even pretend to understand what it entails.
From what I know, once you have your period, I think everybody gets PMS. If otherwise, I'm as clueless as the next person.
I'm not really have much knowledge about the PMS. PMS to me is like UPS, SOS. I don't know anything about it. I just know it's when girls get angry and they unleash the beast on someone. So that's all I know.
To make the whole experience even more difficult, girls also grow about 25 centimeters during puberty and gain about 11 kilograms of body fat. In terms of weight, that's like sprouting an extra limb. Boys also grow a lot, but the majority of their weight gain is in muscle and bone mass, not extra padding. Couple that with the fact that the media's portrayal of the sexy woman is padding-free.
The ideal woman is tall, thin, blonde. She's got big lips, big breasts, no hips because she's thin, and she's perfect.
The fat-gaining period for girls is anything but brief. At age 8, estradiol begins to rise. It's a form of estrogen that causes fat to concentrate on the hips and thighs. It's Mother Nature's way of ensuring a woman has enough stored energy to breastfeed a baby.
And there's a real sense for them if their bodies are out of control. And there is no such thing. We don't say that Janet Smith is going to, end puberty when she is 12 years and 3 months old on the 4th day of the month or whatever. So they don't know. And so there's a sense of going to bed at night and praying that your genes are going to fit, and of course they may not.
Along with the obvious physical changes, puberty can also shake a girl's emotional foundation.
Girls are relational, and they get their sense of self or their sense of self-esteem or identity in the context of their relationships and with others and their ability to negotiate those relationships.
Puberty is a time when friends are very important, and yet in North America, it's a time when many girls graduate from elementary school to high school, losing friends and shaking up the circle. These girls are at an age where their bodies are changing. Biological urges to be with boys are putting a wrench in their relationships, and their moods are changing.
In our culture, when girls reach puberty, there's a lot of pressure on them to be kind and nice. We say to our girls, it's better to be kind and nice and not hurt anybody's feelings and keep everything to yourself. And if you look at the average teenage girl, my sense is that she's learned to internalize distress, to blame herself. So rather than say, what's wrong with the car door? I can't open the car door. She says, like most women say, what's wrong with me?
But the assault of pressures and changes aren't going unnoticed. A now famous study by the American Association of University Women revealed that at age 14, a girl's self-esteem takes a dive. According to the study, in elementary school, 1/3 of girls said they were good in math.
Those girls are really definite. They will tell you, this is blue, right? And they will argue to the death about the things that they know to be true.
But by high school, a few years later, only 1 in 7 girls said she was good in math.
Then already your girls are saying, I don't know. So you say, well, what do you think about this? I don't know. What do you think about that? I don't know.
Psychologists who study human evolution say this dip in self-esteem may be caused by the wash of images of sexy, beautiful women in the media. Girls feel pressure to mimic these glamour looks, and there's another reason.
In essence, it's parasitizing or tricking our psychological mechanisms, the mechanisms of women, into thinking that there's more desirable competition around than there really is.
That point is not lost on this group of grade 8 grads.
Sex sells, and that's what they're trying to promote their sales. And I don't think it's very good for young girls who look up to them as role models. Yeah. And they start dressing like them and walking around thinking they're all good and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing at that age.
They weren't really made with those killer abs and everything. They go through lots of training, and they have all these personal trainers and all this money just to look good. And you can't really do that in your own life unless you're Superwoman or something.
Yeah, and they're kind of giving the message that you have to look good, and have to have a body like theirs, and that's not good.
Low self-esteem.
It makes people have low self-esteem.
And being a small fish in a big pond is enough to make anyone feel depressed. It's almost impossible to separate self-esteem from sexuality.
It's interesting that girls who become sexually active at an early age actually have low self-esteem. Girls who go through puberty as early bloomers as opposed to late bloomers who develop earlier than their peers are also sexualized a lot earlier than their peers.
The balance between a healthy curiosity about sex and acting out that curiosity is a delicate one. Is there a secret to sailing through puberty? No doubt it's the most awkward time of our lives. We're confused about the change in our physical appearance, and embarrassing moments are simply a rite of passage. For most of us, it'll be years before we can talk about puberty with some degree of comfort.
It's the most wonderful thing, because at 17, there's that beautiful turnaround. And all of a sudden, at 17, these rotten kids join the land of the living.
I thought it was gonna be overnight, magically this 30-year-old woman, 27-ish, with hips galore and just just very womanly and like, I don't know, it didn't quite happen.
Good stuff? What was good about puberty? Was there something good about it?
And I knew I'd have like a bigger chest and yeah, a waist and a chest. That's all I knew.
You know, a teacher's giving you a lecture and talking, and one of your friends would tell you like, hey, psst, psst, and you look over and he points down and he's got a big boner, and you're just like, oh my God, you know? And then you start laughing and the teacher's like, what's so funny, gentlemen? And you're trying to like say something like, oh God, it's trying to make an excuse for him. You don't want to tell your friend, oh, I'm looking at his boner or his erection. So you just like, so that's what we used to do.
Before I got my period, I had a vision that once I get my period, I'm going to become this woman. And I'm not going to be a little girl anymore. I'm going to be a mature woman, lady. And now when I think about it, now if you ask me what I think about puberty, it's a pain in the butt. It is. There's so much that comes with it that you'd rather not have, that you'd rather go back to when you're a childhood.
I don't know if there is much of a downside to puberty, because really you're experiencing the evolution of yourself. You know, it's ultimately changing your physical and mental being, and it's pretty much helping you become the person that you're bound to be. So besides all the physical and emotional hardships, you know, it's all kind of going towards something more positive near the end.
It's easy to have a healthy perspective like that when puberty is over and done with. But during puberty, peer pressure can add to the stress of an already tough time. According to the National Center for Health Statistics, almost 1/3 of 15-year-olds have had sexual intercourse at least once.
That was the best part. Experiencing with girls, getting laid all the time, that was the best part. Your first time was the best.
If you're a virgin past age 14, you're a little weird, you're a freak. In women's magazines, you see virgins writing in, so this guy dumped me because I'm a virgin, I'm so ashamed, how am I ever going to, get over this state, and who will have me since I'm a virgin? And the virgins today talk like they're fallen women, like the fallen women used to talk.
Over the next few years, these girls will face an uphill battle against a popular culture that suggests sex is part of being strong. Wendy Shalit is a social critic. In her book, A Return to Modesty, she argues that today's society is continually pressuring girls to have sex and be sexy.
The whole culture is bombarding them with these messages that if it feels good, you have to do it, get over your hang-ups, get over your hopes, don't be romantic, be sophisticated and jaded, and don't care about anything.
If it seems casual, that's because it is. If you're a teen in the Western world, it seems the norm is sex with no strings attached.
Why would you give your body to someone that you barely know? I think teenagers are missing this message big time. I think somehow sex has become an easy way to be liked, to fit in, to be in with the in crowd.
Somebody who takes this advice, who follows these constant injunctions to promiscuity, is essentially insecure. When you're secure, you can forget about what the culture says and say, no, I'm going to do what feels right. I don't have to sleep with somebody on the third date just because it's expected of me.
Those feelings are shared by these 13 and 14-year-olds.
Obviously, we're not, mature enough to know our responsibilities. Obviously, we're not mature enough to have sex if we're not old enough to buy our own alcohol or to drive our own car, or there's no such thing as safe sex, because even if there's AIDS and stuff, there's no possible way that you can prevent it 100%. It may be at 99%, but the condom can break or something.
As puberty descends at a younger and younger age, many educators suggest that sex education start as early as grade 3. But there is a debate over what this education should entail. Dan Savage is a sex columnist who has strong opinions about that.
If we had a driver's ed class where we just taught you how the internal combustion engine works, but nothing about driving a car, nothing about steering or braking or where the key goes or how to use a turn signal, everyone would die the first time they got in a car. That's what we teach people about sex. We just teach them the internal combustion engine, but we don't teach them the how to get laid part, which is the steering and the braking and the turn signals, because we don't want to encourage them to have sex. And consequently, the first time they have sex, they get hurt, or they hurt somebody else, or they contract a venereal disease, or they get pregnant, because they don't have the information they need to negotiate and navigate getting laid. And being able to negotiate and navigate getting laid sometimes often means negotiating and navigating avoiding getting laid.
But according to Shalit, knowledge isn't always the best way to solve a problem.
This is a sacred thing and a serious thing. So when you're taught in class that sex is no big deal and you shouldn't be embarrassed and you have to get over your hang-ups, it makes girls in particular more vulnerable because it demystifies sex. And I think it's so important that sex for humans be mystified.
The teenager is a relatively new concept. In the West, advanced schooling and a high standard of living has cushioned many girls from the responsibility of womanhood.
In ancient times, as soon as you hit puberty, you got married. If you're not going to live past 35 or 40, you really need to start having your babies right away.
In Mesopotamia, marriages were consummated when a girl was 11. In ancient Rome, age 12. Not only were young women of ancient cultures more sexually active than those of today, in some ways, they were more in control as well.
There's some very nice poems where young girls actually are the ones who are the aggressive partner and talk about how beautiful the young man is and how much they would like him and, oh, if only they could get their mother to talk to his mother.
From an evolutionary point of view, a girl's outward sexiness is innate. For our ancestors, once the hormones began to flow, so did the babies.
I think that over human evolutionary history, once women hit menarche at, say, age 13, they do become sexual. They're entering mate competition. They're trying to attract a desirable husband. And so adolescent sexuality has been with us over human evolutionary history.
For millions of years, young women were having sex and being sexual at a very early age. Perhaps what's really new today is the notion that now they don't have to.
It wasn't only 100 years ago Freud said children go through a latency period. They don't even think about sex between age 6 and, their late teens. And now suddenly they're starting to develop at age 7, 8.
There is no doubt that the blatant sexuality of today's young women will continue to bother many.
We have this idea, and this is really the crucial point, that to be liberated, women need to be extremely promiscuous, and that if we're not very promiscuous, we're just not liberated.
This young passion for all things sexual is a reminder that girls are sexual creatures. Once the biology is set in motion, today's girls merely follow a prehistoric script written long ago. The modern twist is recognizing that sex and self-confidence make good bedfellows.
Girl power is not just about sex. It's not just about flaunting, what we have, our bodies. Women have learned that centuries ago. It's about taking control of ourselves and our attitudes and learning what we want and taking control of that and not letting somebody else push us around and dictate what we should and shouldn't be doing around our own sexuality.
There should be an easier way for us to grow up, but we can't argue with Mother Nature. For most children, puberty is eventful, but not traumatic. Soon enough, they'll make it through to the other side, where a whole new set of transitions waits for them.